Colonization never ended, it just became normalized. And I use the metaphor of the colonial dragon, and specifically 3 heads of the colonial dragon: New Age spirituality, mainstream psychology, and the educational system, for you to see the subtle ways that we are indoctrinated into the colonial capitalist patriarchy. We are taught to see these things as helpful, but they're actually here to program us, to indoctrinate us, and to even harm us. Saludos, I'm Dr.Rosales, and my intention with today's video is to help you sharpen your vision, to be more discerning in the way that you navigate the world, so that you can both decolonize and birth a new paradigm. The first head of the colonial dragon is the educational system. As children, we enter the educational system, the mainstream Eurocentric educational system, and this is our first entrance into indoctrination. This is where we start to be presented with a colonial, capitalist, patriarchal worldview. If you even think about the way that school and the educational system is structured, we are separated from our family, we are separated from nature and Mother Earth. We are sitting at a desk for the majority of the time. We do not have autonomy. There is only one authority in the room. And so all of these ways are meant to disempower us and to subtly indoctrinate us into an oppressive paradigm. If you also think about the educational system and what we view as knowledge and wisdom, this is another way that we are indoctrinated into colonialism and a Eurocentric view of the world. This is the first head of the colonial dragon, and many of us think of education as a way to success. But I want to invite you into seeing the educational system as not success, but as a colonial worldview. In the educational system, we're also taught to be receivers of knowledge and not creators of knowledge. We don't have a voice in the educational system. We don't have any control over what we learn and the way that we're taught. This is how indoctrination works. You have no control over what you learn. You are taught to think a certain way. You are taught to view the world through colonial eyes. I want to take a moment here. If you are benefiting from this video, I want to invite you to like and also click on notifications so that you can be notified when weekly videos are available. The second head of the colonial dragon is mainstream psychology. How is it possible that psychology and therapy, things that are here to help us, that are meant to help us, actually indoctrinate us and harm us? Well, the first way is because mainstream psychology determines what we view as healthy and what we view as normal behavior. This is a great power that mainstream psychology holds. If you think about it, what we view as healthy and what we view as normal is a recipe for indoctrinating us into a colonial worldview. There are certain behaviors, certain ways of life, certain ways of being that are viewed as abnormal. This is the first way that we are indoctrinated by mainstream psychology. Another way that we are indoctrinated by mainstream psychology is by the way that they encourage individualism. And here I want to add that when I say mainstream psychology, we are also speaking about Eurocentric psychology. We are speaking about colonial therapy. And so it is Eurocentric psychology that encourages individualism by just focusing on the individual, by also just treating people at the individual level and viewing our health on individual terms, not by how someone engages with their family or their community, but solely by what they do on an individual basis. When we are taught to see the world in this way, we are being programmed into being colonial individualists. Colonial therapy and colonial psychology also gives individual solutions to collective problems. It ignores the way that this oppressive paradigm impacts our mental health, and our self-determination. Part of the beef that I have with colonial therapy is that it pathologizes your appropriate reactions to colonial violence. Instead of acknowledging the ways that this oppressive paradigm impacts our health, it actually gives you a diagnosis of depression or anxiety, instead of really acknowledging that these are appropriate reactions to colonial, capitalist, patriarchal violence. Of course, there would be times that we would be depressed and even anxious when we are witnessing so much colonial violence. Instead of diagnosing these normal and healthy reactions, it would be more helpful to acknowledge how this oppressive paradigm impacts us and the ways that we can navigate this world. The third head of the colonial dragon is New Age spirituality. It is the mainstream spirituality that we see. And this one's a little bit more tricky. It's tricky because it's so subtle. The colonial indoctrination is very subtle. New Age spirituality teaches you that the more that you ignore the collective and collective pain, the more spiritual you are. It teaches you to numb yourself to the collective, and it teaches you to bypass all the harm that is happening in the world. It tries to define spirituality on individual terms and also absolves us of our responsibility that we have to the collective. This is the antithesis of spirituality. Spirituality should be defined by not just what we do on an individual level, but how we show up for the collective and what we have to contribute to humanity. Especially in these intense times, our spirituality is determined by how we show up for each other and what we do about dismantling a harmful system and what we do about creating a new paradigm. New Age spirituality even psychologically rewards you by numbing yourself to the collective pain and calls it ascension. And so in New Age spirituality, the more that you ignore what's going on in the world and the more high vibration you are in spite of what is happening in the world, the more spiritual you are, the more ascended you are. This is very dangerous. It encourages us to collude with this oppressive paradigm because it teaches us to ignore what's happening in the world, to close our eyes to what's happening in the world, and to just focus on our good feelings. New Age spirituality also teaches us that things like decolonizing are low vibration. Anything that acknowledges the harm of the world is viewed as low vibration. This is also harmful because it slowly and subtly indoctrinates you into numbing yourself to what's happening in this world. And really, part of our spiritual walk and part of our spiritual mission is to be deeply attuned to the harm that's happening in the world. Part of our soul's purpose is to restore harmony and balance in the world, and New Age spirituality is not going to get us there. New Age spirituality is also harmful in that it solely has us focusing on things of the light. And while it is important for us to cultivate our light and to share our light with the world, a true spirituality is more balanced. It acknowledges our light, but also our shadows, and acknowledging our shadows and working with our shadows is actually what will help us heal, help us return balance into the world. It is my hope that from today's video, you learned about the subtle ways that we are indoctrinated into colonialism, so that you can begin to get free, so that you can begin to live well, and so that together we can live into more collective healing and liberation, dismantle the colonial capitalist patriarchy, and birth a new paradigm. If you received medicine from today's video, I want to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube community.